pleased to be joined today by the president of the Portugal Day Parade Committee and other events, Portugal Day Committee, Mr. Jubilo Alfonso. Jubilo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Mayor.
Now, speaking of Mother's Day, you have a special mother in your house, right?
I do, my lovely wife. She's mother of 2 children, 2 twins that were born a little bit over a year ago. This is going to be your second Mother's Day.
Second Mother's Day.
So
how old are they? So they're just 13 months now?
13 months, exactly. So they'll, just 13 months.
That's all right. And
I forget how fast time flies sometimes.
It goes quick, doesn't it?
Oh, very quick.
Are they out walking yet?
They're trying to. They're falling. That's what
falling.
they're doing. They stand up and fall.
They stand up and fall. And you watch that.
I try to stop it. My wife yells at me when I don't.
Oh, yeah, let them stand up and fall. They're having more
That's
fun.
the way they learn.
Yeah, good. Well, happy Mother's Day to your wife as well. And Portugal Day and the festivities, and it's been a long tradition here in our city. You're one of the younger guys to be the president of this organization.
Actually, the youngest one was probably the one just before me, Sergio. You mentioned before, he's the one that you can call if you need any more
Sergio
information.
Granados.
Sergio Granados, yeah. He's running for freeholder this year.
He's a candidate for freeholder. Let's hope he does well. He does well in the Portuguese community.
I've never seen him fail at anything, so I have a lot of confidence in him. But I'm 29 today, actually. So
your birthday's today.
It's my birthday
so
today.
The taping of your show is your birthday.
Yeah, it's a nice gift, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's great to be here. So you're 29 with twins.
Yeah, wow, when you say it like that.
Kind of got a different ring to it, doesn't it, Jubilo?
It does. But it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, so the Portugal Day festivities, they've kicked off. There's a lot more than just the parade in June.
Exactly.
And you're in charge of, or the president, I guess, of all of the organizing of these events leading up till June?
Exactly. When you said it's been going on for a long time, this is actually our 35th year. It started back in 1978, and it's grown since then. We started off with just the parade, then we had a pageant to have a king and queen, and now we have about 10 different events on our calendar. And it grows every year because we want to have things to keep the kids involved. And so it starts in March, and we have events every other week, and then now it turns to every single week up until the actual parade itself, and that's the crown jewel of our events.
Jubilo, you're an attorney in town as well.
I am, on Elizabeth Avenue.
And you keeps you busy with your practices.
Yeah.
How do you juggle? I mean, you got twins at home, you got a wife, you got a legal practice, you got Portugal. How are you juggling all these events?
One of those big calendars on my wall that's color-coded. So I put time in there for my family, I put time in there for work, and I try to give as much back to the community as I can. Every other spot I can find, I should say.
So when you were a young boy, were you participating in Portugal Day events in the early 90s and late 80s?
I was always in the parade. It was one of those fun times when you go on those cars and you go and smile at everyone, wave. I was actually the king of the parade back in 2004. And it's interesting. You have all of these people staring at you, looking at you, cheering at you, and you don't know why, but you're happy, you're cheering back at them.
Were you one of the ones throwing the candy at the kids too, or?
Well, we actually had T-shirts that year, so it was fun. They were all running after us.
Okay. So the festivities now have been a tradition for 35 years, and here in the city of Elizabeth in the parade. So the origin and the history of Portugal Day in Elizabeth kind of started because we wanted our own after Newark was doing it, is that?
No, actually, ours was the first one in the state.
Oh, so ours was ahead of Newark's.
Ours was ahead of Newark.
And a lot of people probably think that Newark was first because it was the bigger city, right?
Well, it's the bigger city. There's a much larger Portuguese population in terms of numbers because, not even that it's larger, but just that there was a lot more Portuguese people at the time. So a lot of them still own businesses, et cetera, and they migrate there. That's why people probably think that it was the first one. But ours was formed in 1978. Theirs was formed a year later, in 1979.
And did you have a parade in 1978? Was that the first year?
That was our first parade.
It was.
Yeah.
And so Newark's parade actually started a year later.
A year later, 1978, by Mr. Coutinho.
Yeah, they got to give us. Newark's got to put a banner up. They were the second parade.
They have to say thank you to Elizabeth for starting it.
That's what they got to do. So the celebration, the festivities in May and June. The first festivity I mentioned earlier is the fishing derby, or we've already had a putt-putt contest at Hyatt Hills?
Well, the first event that we had was actually a wine tasting, just get everyone together, get a nice kickoff, start off for our events. And then we had our pageant. We already picked our king and our queen for the parade. And now we just had a mini golf tournament this past Friday. It was very nice. We had about 80 kids there. They all came out, enjoyed themselves. We gave them little gimmies. And now we're going to have our fishing derby that we have every year. It's one of my favorite events, and we expect to have about 300
Do you like to
kids
fish?
there. Do I like to fish? No, not particularly.
I'm not a fisherman. I don't know why anybody gets fun out of it, but God bless those people that do enjoy it.
Oh, they love it. They catch the fish. They come. We weigh it. We measure it. We actually give an award even for the ugliest fish. And then they go. The kids throw them back. You know, it's not about taking them home. It's not about eating them. It's just about the fun of catch and release.
Okay, and the first event was a wine tasting. How did that go? That was well attended, right?
Oh, it was wonderful. We had it at the church hall on 1 and 9 Elizabeth, and we had well over 200 people there. And we had a community exhibition in conjunction with it, where we showed different parts of Portuguese culture throughout the world. Mm-hmm. Different parts where Portugal had colonies, and people came in. They enjoyed the exhibit. They had some wine. We also had food for everyone. It was very well attended. And, I know that a lot of people just asked me when the next one was. They told me you have to wait a year.
Yeah, so this year, the 80 kids that came, I remember last year it rained a little bit and the weather was cold. So this year you had a better turnout.
It was also a little cold, but the rain held off.
Right.
So we had a lot of kids that came out, and they went.
Is there an age limit to participating in the putt-putt contest?
No, actually, I saw someone there golfing that was 80. We let them go. They don't try to get a prize.
I hope he or she didn't win.
No.
Now it culminates with the parade, which is on the first Sunday in June.
Exactly, June 2nd this year.
June 2nd. And that's always who's the Grand Marshal this year?
This year it's Joe Capital. He's the Grand Marshal of the parade. We actually have 3 marshals in total, but he's the Grand Marshal. He's the one that's leading the parade.
And the other?
The other one is we have an honorary marshal, which is Assemblywoman Nekihano. And we also have something called a posthumous marshal, which is a posthumous title that we give to someone who should have earned the distinction while they were alive, but it was never given to them. And it's a priest from our community, Antonio Bico. Right?
Well, Antonio Bico grew up in Elizabeth.
He did. He grew up in Elizabeth. He attended school in Elizabeth. And he was a priest in Elizabeth for some years. I believe then he went to Newark and he passed
I was at
away.
his ordination.
Were you really?
I was at his ordination mass, and he was a very peaceful man.
He was. He was very involved with the youth.
Right.
And that's why we decided to honor him.
And he got sick at a young age.
He did. Yeah. We don't pick our time.
I know. So the Portuguese presence in the community and their contributions to the community. I mean, you're active. Why are you active? And talk a little bit about the contributions of other Portuguese members.
Well, the reason I'm active, I honestly have to say that I just believe that it fills a void in me, which I think is why a lot of the other people are active. They go, they have friends that are involved, and they go and they help people, right? The Portuguese community, we have a lot of different organizations, you very well know. We have a lot of different events where we give back to the community, we give back to people. We collect money for the blind. We have coat drives, we have food drives. We have a luncheon for the poor on Thanksgiving. So we do a lot for the community, and I think that's why people get involved. It's a sense of giving back, of helping.
And Jubilo, the Grand Marshal and the honorees, was there a Grand Marshal from the very beginning in the parade in 1978?
There was. The Grand Marshal back in 1978 was a gentleman by the name of Amadeu Correia. Our Portuguese school at the club is actually named after him, and he was one of the founding members of the club back in 1921. And he was also one of the founding members of the Portuguese school. That's why it was later renamed in his honor after he passed away. And there was nobody more fitting to be the Grand Marshal at that point other than him.
So he was the first Grand Marshal?
He was the first Grand Marshal of our
parade. And he lived quite a few years after that, too.
He did. I don't...
I remember meeting him when I was on the city council, I believe. In the
I don't
80s.
Remember when he passed away, but I do remember meeting him also. So
yeah, you remember meeting him. But through the years, you've added the deputy grand marshals and the others.
Exactly, because each of them has a very special focus that the Grand Marshal doesn't have. And that's why we feel that we have to honor those specific titles themselves for what they offer.
Now, you talked about the fishing derby, and you talked about the wine tasting and the miniature golf contest. Anything else coming up between now and the parade? Are we and you talked about the King and Queen.
Well, every year we also go and we participate in your Tour de Elizabeth, which is which is taking place on May 21st, I believe.
Yeah, May 19th.
May 19th. I'm sorry. It's taking place on May 19th this year, and we always get a contingent to go and participate. We get about 30, 40 bicyclists, right, that go in and they take part in your event. And the day right after that, we are having our golf outing, which is more for the adults than anything else. We have the mini golf for the little kids, and we have the golf tournament for the big kids, which is going to be that following Monday, the day right after.
May 20th, right?
Hopefully people aren't too exhausted from bicycling to be able
No,
to
no,
play
not.
golf.
Yeah, if you got, what did you say? You get 30 people, 25 people that ride in a bicycle race?
Exactly.
That's a lot of fun. So we're gonna take a break, but we're gonna come back and talk about the parade, which is always the culmination of all of the events that you do and fundraising and how all that works.
Very good.
For Jubilo Alfonso, please stay with us. After these messages, we'll talk more about Portugal Day in the city of Elizabeth and the events leading up to the celebration of Portugal culture in our city. Welcome back to our city, where I'm joined by Jubilo Alfonso, who is the president of the Portugal Day Committee and handling all of the events leading up to the Portuguese Parade, which will be held on June 2nd, as he announced earlier in the show. So, Alfonso, the highest point of Portugal Day celebration is naturally the parade. Do you organize the parade, or is that a different committee that organizes the parade?
We have a subcommittee that organizes it. It's Jennifer Costa who organizes. She, I think you've met her
She's been on
before.
the show before, Jennifer, yeah.
Yeah, she's very involved also. She's involved in a couple of different organizations.
She runs the King and Queen thing too, right?
The King and Queen, she's actually the MC for that event.
Right.
She's got a wonderful speaking voice. That's another subcommittee, actually. That's organized by Jacqueline Estevez. She owns a local dance studio in town as well.
Okay.
But the parade itself is organized by her, as far as all the contingents, the order, reaching out to them. It's a big job, if you can imagine.
Well, I can imagine, and people don't want to march where they're told to march, too, I can imagine. If they're anything like the Irish parade, they're like, well, how come I'm not here, and how come they're there?
That's why we tell them you have to get your applications in on time, or else you go to the back of the line.
All right, exactly. But the Portuguese Day Parade is always a great afternoon, especially going back to the Portuguese Club and celebrating with all the walkers, the watchers,
Oh, it is.
the hangers-ons, or whatever. It's just a great afternoon.
It's rain or shine, and we've had a lot of luck in the last couple of years. Sometimes it drizzles a little bit, but it's held off. We've never had a torrential rainstorm.
Right.
So we've always been able to actually keep it going, and it's always been, like we said before, on the first weekend, the first Sunday in June.
So tell us about it. It's June 2nd. What time does it start? Where's it go from? What's the route? Whatever you can do.
Well, it starts at 2 p.m. That's when it actually kicks off, when the floats and all the marchers start on their way, and it starts at Union Square, which is Elizabeth Avenue, right where that Carlotto's bakery is. Starts from there, goes down Elizabeth Avenue. It passes in front of City Hall and the bandstand where all the dignitaries are seated, and all of the other watchers are throughout the parade route. And it makes a left when it gets down to the end of Elizabeth Avenue onto onto Broad Street. Mm-hmm. And from Broad Street, it goes down to Grove Street, where it ends at the Portuguese Club. The Portuguese Club, the easiest way to probably find it is 600 Grove Street. It's on the corner of Grove Street and 1 and 9 South.
Now, Jubilo, with all of your duties, do you march in the parade, or do you just kind of tell people where to go? And I mean that in a nice way.
Well, the nice thing about the committee is that we all go and we all help, we all work. And when they choose a president, it's one of those, I don't want to say burden, but everyone does it. It kind of switches. I'm the president this year. It's not because I'm more adept or better than the other people. I've done it. Maria, which is one of the vice presidents, has done it. Sergio has done it. And we essentially rotate. So when you say if I go and tell everyone else what to do, well, unfortunately, they don't let me do anything that day. We all have walkie-talkies. They turn mine off and take it away from me.
There you go.
And they tell me I have to march, which is a little frustrating because you go and you say, man, that car, he's not supposed to be there, but I can't go yell at him. So that day, my duties are a little different. But
now, can anybody march in the parade? An organization, a person?
We ask anyone that to march. They can march. We don't charge anything for anyone to march. I know some of the other parades, for instance, Newark and Union some years back when they had one. If you were a business or a corporation and you wanted to advertise, they would charge you in order to be in the parade. We don't ask that you do that, but we also don't allow people to just go there to advertise. We don't want. I'm not going to say any supermarket names, but we don't want a supermarket sign up there saying, come to my supermarket. We ask that you at least go and have some sort of a message to the community, that you salute the Portuguese community, that you congratulate the marchers, something. We don't want just a big banner with a sign for a moving company. That doesn't happen because we want people that are there in the parade to be representing something, to be representing part of the community.
So how do they go about if XYZ group wanted to march? How would they go about it?
They go right to our website, www.elizabethportugalday.com. portugaldaylizabeth.com. Or if you just go right to Google and type in Portugal Day Elizabeth, it'll come right to our page. And there's an application there. Click on the applications tab, fill it out. You can either send it through email or fax or regular mail, or whatever is easier. As long as it gets into our hands, we'll confirm with you, and we'll have a spot there in the parade for you. We'll have all of the badges that you have to put on your car or your vehicle that's going to be there, or for your marchers to hand in, so that we let you through, so that you can come and be a part of the festivities.
And Jubilo, I know it always depends on weather, but the estimated number of people in the parade or watching the parade, it's always hard to do that now, but what's happened in past years?
It's hard to say, just like you said, because it's a little early still. We've only started to get a couple of contingents to register. Last year we had 80. Each contingent has anywhere from 5 to 50 people, and that's the people in the parade itself. Then we have all of the onlookers and people that are there, and then the people that show up to the actual festivities afterwards, to the party, if you will, at the Portuguese Club. It's in the thousands. An exact number I couldn't tell you. I really wish I could count that high, but it's a little hard on the minute.
Now, you mentioned afterwards, tell us what happens after the parade and how the community continues to celebrate.
Well, I took you through the parade route before. They come down to Elizabeth Avenue, down to Broad Street and Grove Street into the Portuguese Club. And after that, it's there. We have the rest of the evening up to a reasonable hour. We have music that's playing traditional Portuguese music for people to go and dance, and we have a large barbecue, if you will. All right. Different steaks, chicken, etc., for people to go have a good time. They can eat, they can sit down, they can drink, they can enjoy themselves for the rest of the evening. And we have different activities for the kids. We have different bouncy castles and things for them to play, and we have different booths where people go, and they have different carnival amusement attractions and things like that. So it is something for everyone. It's a family environment, and like I said before, as with all of our events, we don't charge anything for anyone to come. It's open to the public. You just have to show up and have a good time.
Well, if you don't charge anything, you must have sponsors, or how do you raise the money? Because it is a costly event to put on.
It is a costly event, and you understand that right now, the economy being what it is, it's harder and harder to get sponsors, but we do have a lot of sponsors that have been very generous over the years, and they are repeat sponsors. They see that we do something nice for the community, so they are willing to continue to give it, because they see that we use their money in a positive fashion. So the following year, when we go knock on their door, they go and they are willing to help us again. So we haven't had any problem with losing sponsors over the year, and we've been adding more and more every year, which is helpful. It always is a cost-benefit analysis that you have to see as far as what events you can have and what you can't. And what we do is, it's not only by what we like and what we don't like, we have to see what people come and participate in. Who likes to come to these events? Like I said before, we had the mini golf, we had about 80 kids there. It wasn't a big expense, but at the end of the day, it is an expense. But we had 80 kids there. They enjoyed themselves, so that's something that we've had for, I think, the last 4 years. We're going to keep doing it. And the fishing derby, every year it gets a little bit more and more expensive. We have to buy fishing poles, etc. You said that we have them all supplies last, and that's exactly what it is. Unfortunately, we count on having about 300 kids. If 500 shows up, we can't have fishing poles for all 500. So we ask that if people do have them, that they bring them themselves, obviously, to alleviate that, alleviate some of the lines, and alleviate some of the costs.
And Jubilo, it must be always difficult every year when you put the parade on to come up with a new thing or a new theme. How do you do that, and anything new this year?
Well, it is hard. Sometimes you actually recycle ones from the past, because you think, oh, that was a really good one we had 6 years ago, so let's use it again. This year what we actually did is we had Portuguese influence throughout the world, and it kind of snowballed from the wine tasting. When we saw where Portugal was in the past, the different colonies that it had around the world, anywhere from China to India to Africa and South America, Brazil, as you know it. From there, we went a little bit different when we got to the pageant. We still wanted to incorporate the same theme, Portuguese influence in the world. And what we did is where they are now. We looked at different parts of the United States, France, Brazil, even though it was a colony in the past, Venezuela, parts where Portuguese people have immigrated to now, and what influence that they had on that community, how that community has influenced them, what they brought there. And we had people get in touch with people from those communities. to see how that they would best represent those communities. We tried to stay away from Elizabeth, New Jersey, just because everyone would want that.
So, as we run out of time, if anybody wants to learn more about the parade, what's the easiest way to get news about the Portugal Day festivities?
If they want to find out what's going on in the parade, feel free to go on our website. It's open to the public, as every website is, www.elizabethportugalday.com. If you have a specific question that you can't answer, please give me a call. Phone number is 908-354-9094. And I'll be more than happy to field any questions that anyone has.
Thank you for taking the time to join us on the show, and I look forward to marching with you and celebrating the Portuguese culture here in our city this month.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you. For Jubilo Afonso and Portuguese culture, as well as the Portuguese Parade on June 2nd, I'm Chris Bolwage, and we'll see you next week on another edition of Our City.